Hi, I'm Eric with HyprMX. We're here at Pocket Gamer Connects 2023 in London, and I'm joined by Felix. How are you, man?
Great.
Good to have you.
Thank you, man.
So do this. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your time in the industry.
Fell into the industry like accidentally, like as most people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was I had a company and I went like belly up. And then one of our investors was an investor in another company, and we're just like, hey, you have no money. Do you want to work for this company? And that was a DSP called Remerge. And then that's kind of my intro to the industry. Then I moved to another DSP, a couple ad networks, and then I decided to stop working for the ad network side and started working for clients or like gaming companies instead. So now I'm a full-time ad monetization consultant, and I also do a podcast.
Nice. Yeah. Well, what made you stick to ad monetization? Going from supply, demand, both sides, and having a taste of each, what makes you love ad mon?
Supply side is the most interesting side from my perspective, I think. It's just, you see how everything's interconnected. You're seeing like the piping of how the actual app industry works. Like most downloads come from other games, right?
Right.
So like if you actually have a view in who's getting those downloads, you actually see the flows, and you see it basically like, it's like going on a trading floor for like a bank, basically. You see basically how it looks and who's getting the installs, who's installing what, and it's just more interesting.
Yeah. And so who are some of the clients and partners you're working with now to kind of help grow ad revenues?
They got a couple good clients, Turborilla, Gameovation, a couple others, but got a good couple, clients. I'm happy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, in general, do you find whenever you step out on your own from a company, there's pros and cons, right? Like there's maybe more stress because it's all on you at that point, but do you find the reward is there compared to working for a standalone company?
Yeah, I mean, you get exposure to more things, so you also learn more things, so you can be more helpful. So. Yeah, it's more interesting because there's nothing more exciting. It sounds super nerdy. Like when you work with a new client and you open up their mediation dashboard for the first time. Yeah, super interesting because you don't know what you're gonna find. Right. Sometimes it's like Frankenstein's monster, and sometimes it's really good, and then you're like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to add any value here. Like, damn it.
Yeah, you got to really squeeze it out. Yeah. Which, speaking of that, I mean, what are some of the things in the last year that you found you were able to do to unlock revenue? You don't have to give away secrets.
Oh no, I'm gonna tell.
Everybody's trying to figure it out, right? Everybody wants to unlock more revenue. Yeah, what have you found that's been working?
So three major big ones in order. So the biggest impact one, Google bidding. Like getting greenlit on Google bidding and whitelisted will add like 10 to 12% on ad ARPDAU. The trick there is the Google bidding, you're allowed to do bidding and do placements at the same time until Google said probably Q4 next year. Okay. So basically usually you have your ad mod placements quite high. So what happens then is you get exposure to the lower portions of the waterfall as well. And then it just goes nuts. Okay. It's just really good. Second thing is Amazon Publisher Services. So they only work on banners right now. Word on the street is that they're possibly rolling out interstitial ads as well, so video inventory. But what happens is you start them off on APS, this like Amazon Publisher Services. You get this nice slice of e-commerce demand direct from Amazon. And then they have a bunch of DSP inventory as well, like kind of competing with a DTX and Amazon, not Amazon, I'm saying App Leveling Exchange. App Leveling Exchange. So basically they compete against there, but what you can do is you can also work, they love their acronyms, so you can work on something called TAM. So what you do is you run APS for 4 weeks, and then you take a look at the top performing DSPs, and then you do a TAM deal, which is a direct IO deal through Amazon with these DSPs, and then they send you more inventory. So then you really see always on banner after doing TAM, Amazon Publisher Service is always top 3 on banner. Like, regular as clockwork. You'll never go wrong. Yep. And then like one thing, like that's also like a really weird hack, like Emobi, like their bidder's good, but you always get like 10% better performance if you use them on placements. Don't know why, but
yeah, but good to know.
Yeah,
definitely.
Good to know.
Yeah. And aside from like some of those tricks, and that's really more specific to like what demand partners you're working with, how you have them plugged in. Do you deal at all with like actual ad placements and game economy, sort of where you're featuring these mechanisms?
Yeah, like the things I was talking about before, like the 3 top little hacks, that's great. Yeah. But like end of the day, at the bottom line, if you get lucky, 20-25% uplift if you get lucky, right? Like, and that's quite good. But if you really want to double ad revenue or like do the big increases, the only thing you can do is get more impressions. And the only way to do that is ad units, new ad units, new placements, getting more opt-in. And that's the most fun part, I would say, and that's probably where this industry is heading, because the other stuff that I was talking about before, that's going to be automated in like 2 years max. So,
right. And I imagine, adding more placements, it sounds good. Getting more impressions sounds good, but it's not that easy, is it? Do you need to customize your placements based on the genre or the individual game, or can you generally just try to increase impression volumes?
I mean, the interesting thing is, like, most of my, like, where I see the most increase in clients is apps. So they're looking at like Duolingo, are making 50K a day from ads. Like, can I do that?
Yeah.
And then like you realize that like what's kind of basic in ad monetization for games, apps I've never heard of. So it's quite easier to adapt there, I would say. But like, if you're working with an idle game that already has, 16 impressions per DAU unrewarded, like odds are, like if you put interstitial, it's going to cannibalize it.
Right.
And, like it's not as
easy. And how many more placements can you add if you've already got 16 views per user per day?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, in addition to sort of like changes you can make in the game, new networks you can work with, I know a lot of our partners have been open to new ad formats. Again, new revenue streams. Which have you worked with, and which do you think are going to survive or become tangible in the next year?
I couldn't turn that question around, like, because branding is where I've seen like a lot of softness, like especially in the last year. So all these branding, like in-app, like ads, audio ads, like if the brand softness keeps on for another couple of years, that's going to be an issue. Like, it's going to be challenging for you guys as well. So,
it has been a challenging year for brands. I think, when it comes to in-play ads or even audio ads, those are new formats. There's going to be a slow rollout for that for sure. We're paying a lot of attention to it. I think once that sort of demand piece is figured out for in-play ads, it's a great opportunity. I don't know if it's there yet. Audio ads, I think, are something that's going to be maybe a bit more realistically scaled in the next year. There are plenty of advertisers that already have creative that could be transitioned to audio only. From a tech perspective, I think it's an easier sell and play as well. And I think users are going to be a little more open to that once it's tested and rolled out. Hopefully we can see that grow this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing some rumblings about mediation for audio ads.
Isn't
no, basically I think it's a bit too early, but like, the industry, like it's about to take off when Spotify will launch like an audience network for their audio ads. And then everything will be mediated, and then probably AppLovin might allow it, but I haven't heard anything about. That's when they'll come in, right? When it's big enough, and they'll try.
Exactly, right. And same thing with in-play, nobody's mediating yet, and that's the problem. You need more demand. You can't run one network right now and fill billions of in-play impressions. So
we have one client that are running in-game ads, and the big issue is just fill.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what is hurting it the most. So,
well, in the in-game ads, you can't do what you can do in a traditional banner placement. You can't just funnel programmatic without thinking about what's the creative going to look like when it gets there. Okay, so enough about your consulting. We don't want to give everything away. What I do want to talk about is 2.5 Gamers. Your podcast with your co-founders has really blown up. It's amazing. Tell us how the whole No BS podcast concept came about.
So, like, credit is due where credit is due. This is all Maciej's idea.
Okay.
Like, we used to have a WhatsApp channel between me, Remo, and Maciej, where we just used to talk. And then he was just like, hey, let's put this on a podcast and see if it works. Then we recorded our first episode, which we still haven't released yet because it was that bad. And then we just kept going. We did 1 episode a week for a year, and then here we are. It's growing really quickly, and it's a lot of fun. It's like what I look forward to the most every day. Yeah, it's good fun.
What do you think the hardest thing about starting a podcast is, other than seeing and hearing yourself for the first time on
That's
episode
hard, 1? But I can tell you because I looked up the data. So Apple Podcasts, like the app, they released some data that said that 75% of podcasts on their platform don't have more than 4 episodes. So if you do more than 4 episodes, you're already ahead of 75% of the rest of the people trying to do it. So it's just about keep going, and you notice yourself getting better. So the hardest thing is just doing it every week. Right. That's the hardest.
Finding the time, the dedication, the discipline.
That's the hardest.
Okay. No, that's amazing. Yeah, over 4. I want people do 4 and they just give up. And I think one of the unique things about your podcast, it's always refreshing to have this type of podcast, is it is no BS, and you guys kind of tell it how it is. How do you and the guys walk that line of being brutally honest while maintaining, good relationships in the industry? And you successfully do it.
I mean, we have. The short is we don't. Like, honestly, we've gotten 2 cease and desists. A couple angry lawyers reaching out from different ad networks. What we say is usually like, did we get something wrong? Then we'll correct it. Right. If we got something wrong. But if it's like an opinion thing that we didn't get wrong, like, dude, like, yeah, that's my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that you're reaching out to me like makes it kind of true, right? So yeah, if we've got something wrong, we always apologize and like correct it on the podcast. It's usually me that has to do it. And then and then if it's not, then we just go like, okay, that's your opinion.
Yeah. How much time does it take you guys to prep for each podcast? Because you're really detailed, you're really specific, and there's a lot of content in each one.
I'd say at least 4 hours per episode per person, right? So it's a lot.
And you don't do a run through, right? Like, I mean, this is tradition. It's not scripted. It's here's the topics. You do your research.
We write down talking points. So we don't look at each other's talking points because we want to be surprised.
Nice.
So like we don't ever read each other's talking notes, but so it's more fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to write down everything in a sheet, and then you kind of look at the sheet while you're reading. It's a bit like a teleprompter, right?
Yeah.
So we use it like that.
Cool. All right. So to wrap things up, I actually tend to hate this question, but I am genuinely curious. 2 questions actually. 1, what's your favorite mobile game? And 2, give us one prediction for 2023, be it general or specific. What do you think we can expect this year?
Okay, so favorite game has always been Castle Creeps.
Okay.
Outplay did a great job on it. I just love the story, the artwork. I had to delete it a couple of times because I just play it too much. So I don't have it on my phone right now, but I usually do.
Yeah.
So Castle Creeps for sure.
Cool.
Trend, I mean, it's going to be carnage. That's what's going to happen. This year is where we're going to see, sadly, quite a lot of companies probably go bust. And it's just the natural order of things. We've had 10 years of boom times. Right. It's the first time mobile gaming goes through, a recession. Yeah. So we finally get to answer the age-old question, are in-app sales, elastic or inelastic? Let's see. Let's see. Tune in to 2.5 Gamers to find out. Yeah. Felix, man, always good to see you. Yeah, man. Thanks so much, bud. Appreciate it.